Coogs house. LJ Cryer officially a Golden State Warrior after signing with them after the NBA draft. But shouldn't he have been drafted?
You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Cougars Daily Podcast about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Ainsworth. And whether you're a Houston fan or just a hater who came to stop by, thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day as the everydayer that you are. Be sure to make sure to listen each and every day here at Locked On Cougs. If you want to join the conversation but you don't know what to say, tell us. It's June 27th. Tell us what your favorite Houston rap song is. You've made the big ones, Top Drop, Mostly Done, Poured Up, Still Tipping. I like what a job this is. Devin the Dude, shout out Devin the Dude. Also, I'm a sucker for him. Anyway, I could have done that rabbit hole for a long time. It is June 27th. Happy June 27th to you. But the news of the day is that LJ Cryer is a Golden State Warrior. I want to hit that in the first segment. Second segment, I'll talk about this PayPal deal with the Big 12, what we know about it, and what's coming with it later. Also, I want to talk in the third segment, the thought experiment, about this BYU and Houston continued comparison of the five-star quarterbacks they've got going. But first, foremost, no longer Houston Cougar, LJ Cryer is a Golden State Warrior, signed an Exhibit 10 contract with them after the draft. Now, it's a deal that can last up to a year. It is a minimum salary contract. It's not typically guaranteed. You have to play to earn it most often, but it does allow you to be tied to a single team, meaning you can work out with them, hit training camp with them, get evaluated, go through summer league and do all those kinds of things. It can be easily converted into a two-way deal before the season begins. And then it does give you a potential bonus if you sign back with that team's G League group after being waived. So like if they work out LJ Cryer for the summer league and whatever, he could get waived in late July and then re-sign with their Golden State G League affiliate is Santa Cruz, I want to say. And he would get a bonus for doing that with their program. All in all, he is getting to work with a great coaching staff. Steve Kerr has assembled, right, a Hall of Fame caliber coach. He gets to, in terms of working with the Warriors, work with Steph Curry, great shooter of all time, very similar skill set. Steph Curry's 6'3", is not quite the same level of undersized that 6'1" LJ Cryer faced being getting drafted, but similar skill set in that they get the shot off from anywhere, get the shot off quick releases, and so on. You also, I think, could see like a very shooter-friendly offense and scheme. They practice that early on, a lot of ball movement, a lot of off-the-ball movement. And then, frankly, for what it's worth, when the Warriors were like in their heyday, they also played tremendous defense in a very Simpsonian kind of way. And so we'll see. We'll see how all that goes. Listen, I understand that LJ Cryer is 24 next season. I understand he's 6'1". I also understand that he had 15.7 points per game on 42.4% from behind the arc. I went into the draft kind of knowing that this was a probability. He was probably going to get drafted after the fact, right? But I have to say that it started to rub me even more the wrong way as the draft went on. And I saw all these other, for lack of a better phrase, small guards, guards under 6'4", under 6'5", taken ahead of him. First round picks are a lot of times like projects, prospects, 19-year-old kids. I get that. At 24, a kid that's a one and done will be on their second contract by the time they get to be LJ Cryer's current age. I get why teams would look at that as a advantage in the first round. In the second round, you had, Cam Jones went second team All-American. Cryer was a third team All-American. Okay, but Spurs took Cam Jones. He got officially listed as 6'3" after being 6'5" all season. Don't ask me how. He turns 24 next season as well. He did have 19 points per game, but a far worse shooter. And ESPN's own analysts called him, quote, not as explosive as other athletes his size, right? Elijah Martin, who spent 4 years at FAU and then a year at Florida, turns 24 next season as well. He's 6'2", 14 points per game, 35% from three. Houston locked him up, and you actually, if you go back and watch that game, well, the ending is very painful. You don't talk about the last 6 possessions or whatever it was. For what it's worth, I thought that Cry did a really good job in his one-on-one matchups with Elijah Martin, and he got drafted by the Toronto Raptors in the second round. One of the ones that really eked and irked at me was Javon Small getting drafted by the Minnesota. Now, I should preface this with, don't want him not to be drafted. I don't mean anything like that. I just meant, like, I thought LJ Cryer was, LJ Cryer is a better basketball player. Javon Small will turn 23 next season. He is 6'3", and while he had a lot more points per game, he also had far more usage rate for what they were doing in West Virginia. We also saw Houston lock him up individually, and a lot of that was LJ Cryer, was Miles Uzian as well. But I don't know. I just look at what he was, an honorable mention APL American, and LJ Cryer was the third team. I just LJ Cryer at every step of the way has been identifiably better than Javon Small. And I think Javon Small is also an NBA player. I just thought that LJ Cryer should have gotten the jump ahead of him. If you extend this out to like 6'4s, which is a little bit different, sometimes you can get a small combo guard at 6'4 or whatever. But Chaz Lanier, Tennessee guy, AP honorable mention, All-American. Detroit picked him up. He's also 24 next year. He only played one season Power 4 basketball in Tennessee. For what it's worth, I would look at LJ Cryer having a more favorable resume. Tyrese Proctor at Duke, picked up by Cleveland. The biggest head scratcher, though, of the 6'4-ish guys was Talon Peter, who went to Tennessee Tech, then spent 2 years in Division II ball at Arkansas Tech, and then played last year at Liberty. Indiana drafted him. He's also going to be 24 next year. And yes, Talon Peter shot 45% from three on a lot of shots per game. But he's nowhere near the versatile scorer, right? LJ Cryer shot 42.4% from behind the arc, but he has the floater. He gets to the mid-range. He attacks and drops off to the big. Talon Peter's not doing that for you. And at 6'4", 6'1", I guess at 3 inches makes a whole lot of difference to some people, but I just don't get it. And ultimately, I know that whether it's Max Shugla from VCU or whoever, it shouldn't be the biggest deal. I just saw a lot of players, Javon Small and Talon Peter being the two that bug me the most, that I know LJ Cryer is better than. I just know it. And instead of him getting that night where he heard his name called on draft night, those guys did. Now, do I think this can absolutely fuel every LJ Cryer, they doubted me, chip on the shoulder kind of thing? Absolutely. Like, no doubt in my mind that if given the opportunity, you will see him on NBA roster, being able to make shots, catch and shoot, movement shooting, playing defense. Golden State's an interesting fit because they have the 6'3" guy that shoots, obviously, but a team with a bigger point guard where you could have LJ just match up with the shorter guard of the opposing team. You know, one of these teams is a 6'6" kind of guy. And we just saw Halliburton go down, I guess, for Indiana, but one of those, I think that in the end, that's actually the best sticking point for Cryer. With Golden State, what I see happening is a seamless integration between their offenses and the G League and the NBA. I see them having guys that maybe are also on two ways that can work with him at that G League spot and kind of, be working off of Cryer like they will work off of Curry at the NBA level. I could also see if, Curry's not a young pup anymore. Was that Davidson run was in like the late aughts, 2007, 8, 9. I could see Steph Curry potentially like needing a break, taking some, with rest time or whatever, and you call Cryer up for a week or two here, give him that 10 day. I can see those kinds of things happening. So we'll see where this all goes. We'll obviously keep track of him in the summer league and so on here at Locked On Coogs. So subscribe, and we'll be following that all the way through. But one thing that we need to follow fairly closely, Brett Yormark has always been at the forefront of things. The Big 12 appears to be at another forefront. That is a deal with PayPal. I want to talk more about that in a second. But before we get to that, I do want to remind you that today's show is brought to you by our buddies over at Game Time. Game Time is this place get last minute tickets, lowest prices. If you ever decided last minute, let's go to that Astros game. Last minute, let's go to that Dynamo game. Last minute, hey, what are you doing tonight? I don't know. Let's go find out what's going on at baseball state, whatever the case may be, right? If it's game day, you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. It's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch. Invite a bigger group to come with you. Grab a buddy's ticket. Game Time makes all of that possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last minute deals. Great seat views in the app, lowest price guarantee. You find the same row and section somewhere else, they'll credit you back 110% of the difference. So you don't have to worry about buying something else. Exclusive offer for FIFA Club World Cup matchups as well. If you're looking to get into some soccer action, take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Game Time, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On College, LCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Park Rangers Locked On Coogs here. I just got this message sent to me about LJ Cryer. It said Exhibit 10 deal soon enough to be an Exhibit A, why you shouldn't pass on U of H royalty from Jonathan Hernan. Just Jonathan, listener to the show for that. But on to the Big 12 and the Big 12 and PayPal. It was announced this week that the Big 12 and the Big 10 conferences have struck a deal with PayPal and Venmo being the same company, partnering and working with a revenue share model. Now, the found study that over half, they found in the study, Brett Yormark has said, that over half of NCAA athletes already used Venmo on a regular daily basis. And they decided this was the best way to get the money from revenue sharing into the pockets of the athletes. For what it's worth, I think it's pretty forward-thinking kind of way to go about things. The deal is 5 years, $100 million. So schools, you should see, but the Big 12 deal, I should say, is 5 years, $100 million. So that's roughly 20 per year in average annual value. At 16 schools in the conference, you're looking at just over $1 million per school. This happened fast in terms of the way that each school got this. The conference worked in its own, I guess, to get this for the schools. And that implies that Brett Yormark was probably already working behind the scenes to get this thing done before the House settlement was reached. However, with that being reached, he wanted to make sure he got this set up to get it ready for when the revenue share hits very, very quickly. Look, you're going to see Venmo involved in buying tickets, concessions, merch at stadiums, whatever. There's even some stories saying that you'll be able to get to tuition at these different schools within the Big 10 and Big 12 through PayPal. You'll see PayPal marketing at Big 12 championship events. The goal is for a simple, easy, seamless way to pay the athletes their portion of the House settlement revenue sharing while benefiting the conference, right? And so money to the schools to help them pay the athletes. I think this is a win-win-win-win-win all the way around. What I really liked about this deal, though, if you know me, you know I'm a big fan of Brett Yormark. He is very forward thinking. He's very frontward facing. And I love, as I guess 2 years in almost, Big 12 guy now, I love that he doesn't treat the Big 12 like anything other than top tier. He doesn't look at it as competing with the SEC or the Big 10. He's like, we're trying to be the best the Big 12 can be. And that can be as big as these other conferences. There's no qualms about that to him. So when the media tour launched, this innovative new partnership between PayPal, Venmo, and Big 12, Big 10, Brett Yormark is the one touring with PayPal CEO Alex Chris, not the Big Ten's commissioner Tony Petitti. And I feel like that shows that the Big 12, I'm not going to say has surpassed the Big Ten. We look at the TV deals and dollar amounts, anything like that. it certainly feels like you're close to equal footing than had they all been on stage, or had it been this appearance is Petiti, this one is Brett Yormark. When they go to ESPN, when they went to CBS, when they went to Fox Sports, it was always Brett Yormark. It was always CEO of PayPal X Chris. And that implies to me that Yormark is very much at the forefront of this deal. And I would say that he spoke passionately and adamantly about getting this set up before waiting on the rest of the NCAA, right? The question was posed to him across multiple outlets. Why didn't you wait for the NCAA to see if there was anything they wanted to do that was uniform, that could go across all conferences or whatever? And he said, we've waited on them for too many other things. To some effect, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, like, we can't keep waiting on the NCAA to do this. This needs to happen now. We're going to be paying these athletes now. We need something seamless, quick, and useful now. Wanted the deal done. So, of course, in like the most Brett Yormark way, the Big 12, and then they added the Big 10 and got PayPal involved, and they got the deal done. Athletes will be getting paid through Venmo and PayPal very, very soon. Also, you can find me, Parker Ainsworth, Ainsworth 512, on I think actually both Venmo and PayPal if you're feeling generous. I'm not really an athlete anymore. I talk about them with my computer at night. But if you want to like send some money, PayPal and Venmo, and support the cause there, that's great. But on a more serious note, I will say PayPal, Venmo, uh, college students don't carry cash anymore. The Venmo and PayPal have these different debit cards, and it looks like they're going to be putting school logos on them as well, kind of handing those out if you need it. Um, I, I think paying for merch and concessions like that at a Houston game will almost be easier than trying to fumble and find cash or whatever. And maybe if you don't have a Venmo account, you need to get on it. I feel like this is Houston and the Big 12 being at the forefront of things instead of waiting to see what happens. And I love that. I really, really think that that's just another moment that is indicative of what Yormark and the Big 12 are doing. And full disclosure, I know the Big 10 is involved in this. I think it's important that Yormark, as I said a second ago, is the face of this. And he's representing the Big 12, which is constant, I guess, really third fiddle. I'm about to say second fiddle to P2, but really that makes it third fiddle. And Yormark's the one talking to ESPN about, hey, we're paying our athletes and this is how. This is the future. That is uncomfortable. I know that change can be a lot for some people, and back in the good old days, that's the way things were. But this is the way college sports are going, and Yormark has the Big 12 and effectively Houston as well. Therefore, we're at the front of it. I'm sure Big 12 Media Days, which Locked on Cougs will be at, and was it 2 weeks? And I'm sure that Yormark will be asked questions about this. He will confront it. He'll talk about the future of the Big 12 being in the literal phones of the athletes, right? I look forward to seeing him continue to push the same strength and resolve. I think it's pretty important and impressive. Now, I will say, I want to talk about something else that's important and impressive, and that is signing five-star quarterbacks. The third segment thought experiment looks to continue the comparison here of a pair of Cougars, different colored jerseys. Before we get to that, 1 second. Parker Ranger locked on Cougs here. Get into the third segment thought experiment. Reminder, if you have a question, a hot take, or something you think prompts a third segment thought experiment, you can email it to locougspod@gmail.com. If the video is peachy and worth talking about, we may even play it. Who knows? Third segment thought experiment here. I'm looking at this comparison that has irked me all week. If you have not been listening all week, you're new to the program or whatever, BYU and Houston are the only two Big 12 schools currently with a five-star quarterback committed in the class of 2026 to their institutions. BYU made headlines in a big way. I mean, had Pat McAfee show, had all the different morning talk shows on ESPN. When Ryder Lyons committed to BYU this week, he's a 5-star quarterback. Keisean Henderson earlier this month shut down his recruitment. He's been committed to Houston for over a year at this point. He canceled all visits and shut down his other recruitments. He's coming to the University of Houston. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. There was a notably different level of coverage. Like I had people that are not BYU people, and frankly, they may not be Houston people, but they just know me as the Houston guy, texting me like, what is going on? Why is this such a big deal? Why wasn't the Houston one such a big deal? And look, I have said this from the get-go, and I say it again. I am not saying this to say to take away coverage from BYU. Ryder Lyons signed that day or committed that day. That's a big deal. Hoorah, like roll with it, right? But when I say it feels like these big TV networks hate Houston and they put games on Thursdays and Fridays, they put games on ESPN Plus, they put the number one team in America's basketball program not on the main channels and networks. This is the kind of comparison I draw on, right? Keisean Henderson is a big freaking deal. And had he flipped his commitment to Florida State, you bet your pants that that would have been a big ESPN story. Instead, he said, I'm not even going to go visit Florida State. I'm going to stay with Houston. It's a pin drop. And again, BYU is a big deal. I get it. But Keisean Henderson coming to Houston is also a big deal. The city of Houston is also a big deal. So that's been driving my constant comparative. Why don't they love us? The Will Smith part of Freshman's Blair was like, why don't he want us, man? That he's talking about it's like, missing father and all that. Like, why don't you want me or what Uncle Phil? I don't mean to say it's quite that dramatic. It does feel like these big TV networks just don't want Houston around in the same kind of anyway. This comparison continues to irk me for that reason. But the more I've thought about this week, third segment thought experiment, the closer they've become. Listen, there's a real chance Keisean Henderson redshirts his freshman year. Maybe he splits time with Connor Wegman. The Connor Wegman thing, how real deal he is, how healthy he is, how good the arm is, will determine that, obviously. That means that we wouldn't see Keisean in full starter mode until 2027. Austin Carlisle is in the mix as well, so we'll see, right? And that's great. But Ryder Lyons is taking a one-year mission as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He's taking a one-year mission. He will not be on the field for them until the earliest being 2027 as well. That's interesting that we're excited about these 2026 quarterbacks when there's a very serious reality that neither one of them puts shoulder pads on a Saturday until 2027. I think it's interesting that both quarterbacks are being used as the glue to pull in these other recruits. BYU and Sataki are out there looking for a bunch of big guys to come block for Ryder Lyons, that's the 2026 and 2027. We've seen Houston do the same. We also seen Houston bring in receiver recruits, and I feel really good about a few of them this month and next month that should be committing soon. Come play with our guy is important to both schools. Both schools had this solidified and locked up in June. You had Keisean Henderson in his recruitment, which meant that he's officially a Houston Cougar, right? And Ryder Lyons publicized what was probably the best kept secret in recruiting. If you'd asked someone in May where he was going, I think 99% of people would have assumed it was BYU or a blue blood program. But he shut all that down by publicly stating on Pat McAfee's show, right, that he's going to be a BYU Cougar. There's also a weird similarity here in their connections to the program they're going. Keisean Henderson, if you don't know, coached by Michael Bishop, who everything at Kansas State, but played in junior college before that, and played in junior college because at the time African Americans were told that they couldn't play quarterback for whatever reason. And Willie Fritz, junior college coach at the time, said, "Hey, I think come play for me at Blinn." And next thing you know, Michael Bishop is breaking all kinds of college records at Kansas State after a couple of years at Blinn. Keisean Henderson feels that connection as a legacy of Fritz's, right? Because Bishop can speak glowingly about his relationship and saw something in me, gave me a chance. Keisean has that connection. But on the BYU side of this thing, Ryder Lyons' father played at BYU, right? He is a true legacy in that program, and that pays dividends as well. So both guys feel connection to the program from a significant male figure in their life. I think that's important in this. I think it was important in both of their decisions. Both felt a weird sense of loyalty as well. Houston was the first Power Four school to officially offer Henderson as a quarterback back as an early sophomore. For what it's worth, Slade Nagel and Tulane had also offered him as a quarterback. And Keisean Henderson's been very adamant that Houston seeing that in him early, that the Houston staff seeing that in him early was important. It meant that they were going to give him that opportunity when others hadn't. Right now, by this point in his recruitment, everyone knows Keisean Henderson's a quarterback, but Houston saw it first, relatively speaking. In a similar vein, BYU, to a legacy kid that had the size, offered Ryder Lyons as an eighth grader. Right, said, "Hey, you can come play quarterback." Ryder Lyons was like a two-star recruit for most of his high school career. This was not like a slam dunk home run, whatever. They offered him as a kid in eighth grade. It ended up being a two-star as a sophomore, right? And I think there's something said about loyalty there as well. Both of these guys have had to prove it too. They weren't five-star freshman quarterbacks. Keisean Henderson was told for much of his high school career to play a different position. He earned being a five-star quarterback, not athlete, right? Ryder Lyons was a two-star quarterback for a lot of his high school career, right? He earned those other three stars. I think that that's an interesting comparison too, where they were both told early in their high school and for a chunk of their high school career, you are not a four-star or five-star quarterback. And they proved that wrong. Keisean Henderson, this is for Houston. We're going to play with Houston on our chest, Houston on our helmets. This is for the city of Houston. That's important to him. It's important to a lot of the recruiting they're doing. They're looking to get guys that don't have to take planes to get to campus. That's important, right? Similarly, for BYU, and for many people at BYU, not just Ryder Lyons, this is about playing for a school that represents their faith, right? Ryder Lyons is not just a religiously conservative person. He is a member of the church itself. And I think that that's an interesting thing as well, where you're playing for something that's on the chest of the jersey you'll be wearing, right? Not the back, but the chest. I think it's important. And look, at the end of the day, BYU gets the headlines. The church is led to having an international fan base. Totally get it. And I don't want to take shine away from them on the day it happened, right? I don't mean to say they shouldn't have had a McAfee interview or been the talk of the town on the morning talk shows or whatever. But Houston has shown, when given the limelight, through college game days, signing five-star guys, getting to go to the Peach Bowl in 2015. They beat Penn State as of 2011. Like they've shown time and time again they can produce these kinds of stories when someone is looking to tell them. And this is a moment that no one was looking to tell the Houston story. And it mirrors the BYU story so closely. And everyone was jumping and quick to talk about this other one and not the Houston one. Houston's a big city in American culture. The music scene, I opened with talking about June 27th, right? We also have uh, more recently, like Drake. Drake is from Toronto. That dude wants to be from Houston so bad, right? He is open for Morgan Wallen at a concert. Like, dude wants to be a Houstonian, right? And he's not. Lil Wayne is from New Orleans, puts on for Houston as well. The South enjoys Houston in that kind of way. It's also a city climbing the charts in sports. Durant just signed with the Rockets. The Texans rebuilt super fast. They need some health and some pass protection, but they're there. The Astros have dominated a decade of baseball. They seem to not be going away. They just swept the Phils when everyone thought they were down and out. I mean, the truth is, Houston sports are always in the lexicon, right? It's always in the conversation. And I just feel like this is when compared to the exact same story happening for a different set of Cougars, a gigantic missed opportunity to tell some really cool stories from a national media. And I think that's what's upset me the most, is because these are Houston stories. These deserve to be told. And so anyway, as more unfolds with it, more recruiting happens, I think we'll actually have a good couple weeks here as we get into July and get some commitments down. We'll be breaking it all down here at Locked on Coogs. Subscribe, hit the bell so you know we're live. Locked on Coogs, primarily Locked on podcast. Now we need your team every day. Go Cougs, the Red Ones.